Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Back in the Late 1900s with Rich and Jay. I'm Rich. You might know me from the Rich and Turbo Heavy Half Hour and all that other stuff I do. And Jay as the drummer of the amazing band Holy Roller, amongst other things. Jay, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm
Excellent.
super excited for this interview tonight.
Let's jump right into it. What do we got going on? Because Jay has become the booker of the show, and it works perfectly. And love it, all the guests that we're getting. So Jay, what do we got going on?
So I have a very special guest tonight. I got Chuck Kaye, who was responsible for the 80 to 88 era of L'Amour in Brooklyn. One of the foundations of the scene, guy that created the scene, all the stuff that you and I grew up on. He's partially responsible.
Thank you. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, Chuck.
What's happening? So, Rich, I heard the intro. So you're the lazy one of the two? Is that what I'm getting?
So I think Jay just knows more people, and Jay was actually up in the Northeast at the time when all the stuff that we've been talking about happened. And I moved to Western New York for school and down to Florida. So, but Jay's kind of our OG guy from the neighborhood. Get me, I can book a stoner band, a modern stoner band like nobody's business. But when it comes to people like you, Chuck, I go to Jay.
So it was basically funny. You basically began the podcast by saying Jay's doing all the work, and I love it. Yeah, that's my intro to you, Rich. All right, so all right.
You got me.
Focus on you, Jay. All right, yeah.
So I'm the tired-looking one because I do all the work.
Oh,
that's true.
That's what you're calling your look, tired?
Yeah.
That's what we're going by. All right.
This is
So
8
what's
hours.
up, guys? What would you like to get into, man? Because I'm an open book regarding anything regarding the L'Amour era.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I guess you started there in '80, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I ran. So that's taking a lot of stuff. I started in Brooklyn, L'Amour in late '84. I quit in November '89. I was in L'Amour East for 4 months prior to that, and we can get into that whole weirdness about L'Amour and L'Amour East for a bit. Before that, for about two and a half years, I was a regular there, and they were trying to court me to come over and start doing stuff in L'Amour. In 1980s, L'Amour was a disco. Then, when disco started fading out, they started trying to do some rock. L'Amour, for those who don't know, L'Amour, it was located in 62nd Street between 15th and 16th Avenue in Brooklyn, right in the height of Guidoville. So it made sense for it to be a disco. When disco died, I had 4 guys that I called the Vowels, and they had a nightclub, and they didn't really know what to do with it. So they started saying, let's try to book some rock bands on the weekdays. And they did, and slowly but surely the rock, and it was cover bands back then. That scene started taking over, and the reason why you had the heaviest club in the history of the United States during the heaviest era in the United States called L'Amour was because it was a disco that just tripped on being rock and roll. So they started doing heavier and heavier shows around '83, then '84, and they asked me to come in '84. Yeah, we can cover whatever you want up until I left in November of '89, and the original club itself closed in either late '90 or early '91, and they went to they were a strip club, and then they might have been a disco again for a bit, and then they reopened again as a secondary version of L'Amour. But I kind of look at that era as the heavy metal version of what Studio 54 was in the '80s. It had the same name. It was the same location, but it wasn't the right place anymore.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I mean, the history there is phenomenal. I remember growing up, reading the music papers, the local papers, the East Coast Rocker, Aquarium Weekly.
Yeah.
And seeing all the ads and seeing the bands that were coming through. And just,
So you were a young teenager looking at all the things you couldn't do yet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I get that, man. Yeah. So what do you got for me, man? I'll answer anything you have.
Yeah. So before we do questions, I do want to say thank you to Shane from Law and Order. He was our guest on the last episode of the podcast. Shane introduced us to Chuck, so I got to thank him for that. And
it was fun. Just to touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
Shane and I went to high school He was a year older than me. We lived on the same block. We never got along. One day I was walking and I was wearing a Cheap Trick shirt, and Shane goes, "I love Cheap Trick." And we were best friends for about 3 or 4 years. Then he became ultra high maintenance. We didn't talk for 40 years, and we just reconnected about a week ago, and we've been talking nonstop. Legitimately, when I was like 17 to 20, closest friend I ever had, man. And it's great reconnecting. And he said he had a blast with you guys. And so, I'm down, man.
Excellent, excellent. And I understand you have a story about Shane that has.
I got 80 of them. Which one do you want to go? Want to go numerical, alphabetical, legal? How do you want to do it? Give me the kiss story.
Yeah, let's do the kiss story, because I mean, in relevance to what happened recently.
Okay, so real quick, before I became whatever I became at Lemoore and all that, I always had my ear to the ground. I used to go and I used to hang out at the record plant in New York City, which is, along with Electric Lady, the most legendary studio. I was a huge fan of Kiss and another band called Stars. They were both managed by Allcoin Management. I heard Stars was getting back together. This was maybe 80, whenever Ace left. It was but it was before everybody knew Ace left. So maybe 81, 82, I forget. I heard Stars was going to reform. So I asked around, and a friend of mine goes, "There's an ad in the Village Voice for a guitar player, and it's from Allcoin Management." Now, I had no clue Ace Frehley was unhappy in Kiss. I'm 18 years old. Who knew that in 1980, 81? So I thought it was for Stars. So I actually went, because they didn't sell the Village Voice in Staten Island, where Shane and I live. I actually went into Manhattan, got the Village Voice, got the ad, and told them, "Let's get you an audition for Stars." We had no clue. So we put everything together, got this audition, for, thinking, all right, we're going to do Stars. We recorded a Stars song. The drummer in Law and Order, who didn't even know Shane at that point, I had him come over to do some percussion behind it. A week later, I'm in my mom's house. My mom goes, "There's some guy from Coin on the phone." I don't know. I'm like, "What?" So I pick up the phone. I'm 18 years old. I don't even think I had a phone in my room. I think I went into the kitchen, and it's somebody from Allcoin Management asking me if Shane is contracted to me. I'm 18, contracted. I was just better at connections and shit. So I said no, and they were like, "Well, this is ultra sensitive. Could you have him call us immediately?" Now I'm going, this ain't Stars. There's no way this is Stars. Who gives a shit? I run up the block to his house, run right into his room. I go, "I think you're going to be auditioning for Kiss." And he's like, "Get the fuck out of here." I can curse, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said, "Get the fuck out of here." So he calls, and it's Allcoin Management, and it's for Kiss. He was one of the first 5 people that they called to audition to replace Ace. They said they thought the presentation of the audition was great. He auditioned on a Stars song, so they knew it. And, they asked a bunch of questions about him, and they gave him an audition time, and they told him, what 3 songs to learn. And Shane goes, "I can bring Chuck." And he goes, "You can bring him, but he can't come in because he'll be without makeup. And it's, if it's just top secret." So Shane goes in, auditions. He comes out, and I go, "How'd it go?" He goes, "I fucked up." And I knew it, which is why I wanted to be there. Okay. His version of the story in 2025 is different than the one he told me when he first walked out. Sorry, Shane, but I'm going to tell it. So Shane walks out, and he goes, "I'm playing guitar." And Gene goes, "Wow, you're really good." I'm vibing with Eric Carr. Paul's a little standoffish. It came to Black Diamond. And Shane, with all his, back then, he was a different guy. Shane sat there, and with his ego, he goes, "Can I sing it?"
Oh.
Paul went out. I'm going to try to do a Paul Stanley. It's tough for my New York voice. "We're auditioning guitarist, not vocalist." And Eric just looked down at his snare, and Gene shook his head left to right, and Shane knew he was done. He knew he was done. As a guitar player, he thought it vibed. Now, I'm not there, so I'm going by his word. That's what he told me when he came out. About 9, 10 months later, there was a big band, not a big band, but there was a band getting some play in New York called Cities. They were from Staten Island. Um, Kiss was looking to take an opening band on the road, and they wanted to take a band that they could control. So they came. Everybody knew that they were going to see Cities play. Not Kiss, the management. So I said, let's go there, and maybe we get that connection. When the guy from Allcoin Management saw him, he ran over to him and he was just, you were amazing. My God, we really wanted you. And then Shane said, Paul, and he goes, I can't say anything, but he goes, you were really, really good. What are you doing now? And everybody's watching the guy from Allcoin Management run over to him. And that's when the story started getting out because there was no way to keep it. They're like, how would they know this guy? And they were like, oh, maybe he's one of the guys that went in line to replace Ace. So he was in there before Vito Bratta was in there because Vito Bratta was a top choice of theirs too. I don't know if you guys know that from White Lion.
No, I didn't know that. That's actually really...
Yeah, there's two different versions of it. One was they almost offered him the gig, the other one that he did. The other guitar player in Dreamer was a guy by the name of John, who coincidentally went by Ace. He was the top candidate. There was the guy in that band, Cities, Steve Maranovich, and a few others. But legit, Shane was one of the first 5 people, and it was before anybody in the press knew that Ace left. So it was kind of fun.
Wow, that's awesome. I wonder if you would have wound up being the Egyptian Vinnie Vincent face paint. Yeah.
Who knows? The way he was back then, and he's going to love this because he knows I'm truthful, they would have thrown him out within 3 weeks. There was no way he could have been in a band with Gene and Paul. It would not have happened. But my God, what a cool story to have. He said he was 16. He was actually 19 at the time, maybe 20. What a cool fucking story to have.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with the recent development with Ace Pass.
Absolutely. And that's how we reconnected. He told the story, and he actually gave me credit for the audition. And there's a lot of people who I know from that era that I hooked up with bands who never mentioned, and that's fine. You know, it's not about me. You wouldn't have got there if you didn't have talent. I always say that. But I was just like, okay, if Shane's giving me credit, that's an olive branch. So I wrote him, and you know, it's been awesome. We talked for about 2 hours before tonight's podcast. We're really getting tired again. And you guys don't know this, but he was really a guitar hero before he was a singer in Law and Order. He was a flashy Jimmy Page meets Eddie Van Halen type guitar player.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea that's where, because I know him from the Law and Order records, and him being the kind of the front man and being the, you know, playing more rhythm than I think than anything else.
Oh, yeah, he was just, Phil was the lead guitar player. Okay, so we covered Shane, we covered Rich being lazy, we covered Jay doing all the work. I'm the fucking guest. What questions do you got?
I have a question. I took an effort to put on my Iron Maiden shirt. I did make an effort to do that because I always get intrigued by bands who play in these little spots and then become these gigantic behemoth arena stadium touring bands, and what it was like to interact with them. So Iron Maiden always comes up when you look up L'Amour and just kind of hear some of the bands that kind of played there. Did you interact with those guys? And if so, what was that like?
Oh God, you should have read one of the links. I grew up on Steve Harris on the Night Out together. I knew Iron Maiden before they knew L'Amour and before I went to L'Amour. I met them when they opened up for Priest at the Palladium. You're talking a 2,500, 3,000 person venue. It was the Number of the Beast tour, the first with Bruce. No, I'm sorry. It was the Killers tour, so they had Paul Di'Anno in the band. And they opened up for Judas Priest on their the album that has Heading Out to the Highway on it. What a great show. The next year they come back with Bruce Dickinson and vocals, and I got invited back to their hotel afterwards to party, and I'm 18, 19. And this is, looking back, it was insane. And whenever they came into town, they, not every time, but if they wanted to have a night out, they knew who to call. And I get a phone call from one of the people who was tight with Maiden, working with them in the studio. They were doing maybe Somewhere in Time. They were mixing in at Electric Lady on 8th Street. This guy, Steve Altman, I'll give a shout out to him, calls me and he goes, "What are you doing tonight?" And I go, "What's up?" And he goes, "I'm here with Harry." That's what they call him, Harry. And he goes, "He's looking to go out." He figured, you know what to do. I go, "Damn fucking straight." So we made it a night out at the Cat Club because it was a Wednesday. I called up the Cat Club, told them I'm coming with Steve. They were like, "You course, don't worry about it, whatever you need." I get to Electric Lady. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to need about another hour. Why don't you guys come back?" Okay. So we go, and I go to a place where I'm just drinking pitches and pitches, something called a tidal wave. It's everything you can imagine it tasted like. We go back, and he goes, "I'm going to be another 45 minutes." I go, "Just meet us at the Cat Club." I'm at the Cat Club, and I'm drunk out of my mind. Steve comes walking in, the bouncer brings him right over to me, and he goes, "Hey, what's up?" And I turn around, and I threw up all over his boots. Right now, everybody's watching this. Nobody knew we were like there together because he came in separate. It just looked like Steve's walking through the Cat Club, and I'm throwing up on him. Right? So bouncers who didn't know who I was are ready to throw me out, and he's just laughing. He couldn't stop laughing. So I, I'm like, I need to straighten out. So I did something. I don't know if you guys ever heard of something called cocaine. So hey. So I did a shitload of that, came back in it, and it straightened me out. And I just remember him laughing all night. So he goes, "Anybody good playing the club this weekend?" I don't know if you guys know a band called Fate's Warning. They were playing that weekend. Yeah. So I figured that's the type of band he would like, because they were kind of musicians within being heavy. They weren't just fast, 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 fast. So he comes to see them, and he walks in, and he tells the owners the story. I'm up in the DJ booth, and I get a buzz on the DJ system, the intercom system, and I hear them go, "Could you stop throwing up on bands and trying to get them playing the club?" Yeah. And he came in and he told everybody the story. And then he comes up to the DJ booth and he starts walking like a runway model to show me that he got his boots cleaned. So yes, I know. I knew the band.
You knew those guys.
Yeah. I did drugs with 3 out of 5 members.
Oh, thank you. That I was worth putting my Maiden shirt on, definitely for that story.
And then they finally played the club. The club was after them because whenever they would come into town, they'd always come to the club. And then Rod Smallwood, who was their manager, I was friendly with, and Rod also managed Wasp. And Wasp played on probably one of our most legendary weekends, Metallica, Wasp, Armored Saint, all played together on one stage at Lemoore. And Lemoore didn't have a big stage. They had like 10, 12-foot ceilings. It wasn't like a lot of clubs now where, it's like they're playing a 40-foot ceiling. And Wasp had their full stage show. It was amazing. And Rod Smallwood was there, and he really liked how professionally the club was run. And we really worked on getting Iron Maiden to play there, and they played there as Charlotte the Harlot in 88, maybe 87. I forget the exact date.
Amazing.
That was awesome.
Amazing.
Also on the list of bands that you had stories about that you posted about, had Slayer listed, another band that went from playing clubs to playing these massive festivals and arenas. Do you have any good Slayer stories?
Oh yeah. Let me see. One of my best Slayer story. Again, it involves drugs. It was the 80s. Let me ask you a question. You guys will be. How big was the cocaine scene in the 90s when you guys were kind of coming into favor?
It was bigger in the 80s.
Agree.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear. The sound went out. I didn't hear your response, Jay. I saw you.
It's great. It was bigger in the 80s. For me, weed was bigger in the 90s.
Right, and heroin chic was big in the Manhattan scene in the early. I thought, well, doing cocaine in the 80s was like having a beer with somebody. So it's it sounds crazy now, but it was normalized. So Slayer played the club on and off a lot. A buddy of mine named Scott Koenig, rest in peace. A funny story. He's Law and Order's manager. He recently passed. He was working for a management company and knew Rick Rubin really well. So he became friends with Slayer, and I would hang out with him. When Slayer would play the club, they'd always come up and hang out in the booth. But one night they're in town, they're mixing, I don't know, it was either South of Heaven or Rain and Blood. I forget which one. they were in town and Possessed was playing that week. So the club goes, see what you can do to see if Slayer will come down and jam at the end. We won't announce it. It'll just be a really cool thing for the buzz of the club. So I talked with Scott all week about it, and I believe everybody but Kerry came. So they come to the club, and they're hanging out, and Dave, awesome dude, but he wasn't really a partier, or if he was, he didn't party with me. I know Kerry definitely wasn't. So Jeff and Tom are in the booth getting annihilated. They didn't want to go up and jam. For their credit, they thought it would take the attention away from Possessed at the end of the night, and it was their gig. That was the first time I saw a rock star actually sitting there going, "This is uncool," but yeah, we agreed to do it. So they go, they play, the place is going crazy and stuff. They come up to the booth. Dave Lombardo goes home, and the two of them look at me and they're like, "Where are we going to?" I didn't know I was now responsible for them. And I was like, and one of the waitresses goes, she hears me, and she goes, "We go to my house in Staten Island." I said, "All right, we're going to the house in Staten Island." I had a bright 87 Firebird, so this is probably, we go into my Firebird at the end. Now there's still, I don't know, 200 kids outside, and they're waiting to, like, get autographs and stuff, and they see Slayer go into my car. And this made me with the kids. They're like, "Oh, Slayer's leaving, and they're leaving with Chuck in his car." And Tom goes in the front seat. He goes, "You got anything good to play?" I go, "I got Slayer." And he goes, "Blast it." So we actually left with, I have Slayer in my car. I'm playing Slayer. They're fucked up beyond really. They're headbanging in the car like they're on stage. And I'm driving past like 200 kids in Slayer shirts. I mean, legend was made. So we drive, we go over the Verrazano Bridge. The three of us, me with long hair, and the two of them looking like they did in the mid 80s, in a bright red 87 Firebird, driving. All of a sudden, I pull over on Highland Boulevard, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I go, let's do another line." And no, they're panicked because in L.A., people, like, it was a completely different scene. I go, if a cop pulls us over, I probably know them. Staten Island is not L.A. So we hung out. We go to the place. It's like 6 in the morning, and they're like, "Oh, drive us back." I go, "Drive you back?" I go, "I live a mile away from this chick's house. I ain't driving all the way to fucking Manhattan to drop you off your hotel." They're like, "How are we going to get home?" I go, "I don't know." So everybody's hearing this. Everybody chipped in like $3 or $4 a piece and put them in a cab to go home. That was, Next day, I get a phone call from the manager, and he, "You're lucky they weren't recording because Rick was pissed at how they looked the next day." Yeah, but the good thing about it, Rick Rubin was like, they didn't argue with him about it. They're like, "Yeah, mix it whatever you want, man. We're fucked up." And he's like, "Let me guess, Chuck?" And they were like, "Yeah." Tom was one of the nicest guys. I'll tell you another fun Tom story. You remember the band?
Yeah, love Overkill.
Okay. Overkill played, and Tom came there just to hang out. It was only Tom. So Tom's in the DJ booth with me. So I go, "Why don't you come on stage and introduce the band with me?" And he goes, "I'm uncomfortable about things like that." I don't know if you know Tom, if you guys know anything, but Tom, when he's on stage, he's a very different guy. Tom doesn't even listen to like a lot of heavy, right? I have a story about that. So Tom is up in the booth, and he's like, "Dude, I just want to hang and chill. Come on, work with me." So I come up on stage, and I go I start my thing, and I go, "You know what? I'm going to bring a friend of mine out to introduce Overkill." I introduce him all the time. Now, people saw Tom was there, and they saw him hanging out in the booth. So Tom comes out, and the place starts to chant. And now I'm going, "Oh, shit, Overkill's going to kill me." Like, how are they going to come on when I chant Slayer? Tom was brilliant. Tom goes, I got to do it, Tom. "Do you know what Slayers do? Slayers kill. Kill. Kill." And the place starts chanting, "Kill, kill, kill." And he goes, "Overkill." And the band, the crowd, the owners went, "That was genius." I go, "I had nothing to do with it. That was all fucking Tom." Now, do you guys know of a band called Morris Day in the Time? They were in the Prince movie.
Yeah.
Purple Rain. I'm a big Morris Day fan, bigger than I was for. Tom's in town mixing something around. I left Lamar. he asked the guy Scott, a mutual friend. He goes, "What's Chuck?" So Scott calls me up. I go, "I'm going to see a band I'm kind of working with in Staten Island." And he goes, "Could Tom come?" I go, "He's going to hate the band." And he goes, "He's just coming to hang out." That's all right. The band was kind of like Skid Row meets the Dan Reed Network. If you know, they had a little funk into them. But what they did was I had them do a hard rock metal cover of Jungle Love. Oh, Tom's watching the band. He's like, yeah, they're all right. It's not my cup of tea. They break into Jungle Love. Tom runs to the front of the stage and starts doing the OEOs. He's a big fan of funk. I never knew that. Now, everybody's sitting there. The band thought Tom was going to like bite their heads off because they just know like the aura. But he's going in front, and he runs to me. The band's playing in front of like 100 people at the restaurant. He goes, "Could you get me backstage to meet them?" He thought it was so great because he loved R&B and funk music, man. He's so not the guy everybody would think would be like the poster child for like.
Who was that funk band? Is it somebody that funk metal band? Do we know who that was? Did you say that? Did I miss that? The band who you had do the cover of Jungle Love. Did we lose Chuck? Chuck, you there? I'll be back, I'm sure.
We can edit it.
Yeah, I know how to do that now. I figured it out. Did he say who the band was? That
He didn't.
I wonder who it was. He's not still talking. We lost him for a second. I'm sure he'll... Oh, he's popping back in. Hello? Chuck, you back? Chuck, you hear us? Hold on, I think it's on mute. Chuck, you there?
You can hear me, Chuck. Your audio is muted. Are you able to unmute his mic from where you're at?
I tried, and then it just kind of went back to mute. Let me try again. When I'm hitting the unmute, nothing's happening. Let me try to see what's... It looks, according to what I'm seeing here, I don't... Oh, he left again. He must be having connections issues. Was wondering if that band was Mindfunk that he had Tom go see.
That's what I was thinking.
I was trying to look to see where they were from, but Wikipedia is woefully I want to say they were from New York, but I could be very wrong.
Send him an email.
It's living up to all of the expectations so far.
Absolutely. Cigarette, because that means things will happen. I'll have to put it out.
Very excited. My typo negative, least of the worst, got here today. And then realized that the song that I really wanted on it, they edited out. I don't know why. Hey, Chuck, there he is. We got you. You hear us?
Yeah, what happened, man?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And then I came back and I saw your names, but I couldn't see you, so I just redid everything from the beginning. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. The question I asked right when we hung up was who the band was that you took Tom Araya to go see. That was like a Skid Row kind of funky.
Yeah, it wasn't a band that ever did anything. It was a band called The Deal. They lasted maybe a year. It was an offshoot of a band called Playmate that was pretty big in Lemoore. After White Lion broke, the next two bands that were originals they drew were Law and Order, and then after them was a band called Playmate. The guitar player in Playmate and I remained close, so I was kind of helping them out, and I suggested they cover Jungle Love, and then Tom came to see the band. That was actually the last time I talked to Tom. I was hoping to reconnect with him when they played Hershey, but because of my health issues, I wasn't able to do like 6-7 hours in the concert event because they had like 5 opening acts, and it's too long of a day for me.
Get it. One of the bands that I always think about when I think about Lemoore and that scene, and just seeing like ads, and I grew up on Long Island, just on bands playing and bands that were coming, was Typo Negative, which I think Typo was a little after your time, but I'm wondering, did you come in contact with Carnivore and Peter Steele and those guys?
Yeah, of course. I was closer with Keith, the guitar player, Keith Alexander, on the original version of Carnivore than anybody else. But yeah, I knew Pete before Carnivore played there. You could not know Pete. He was 6'5" with like Indian length hair. Like his hair was so long it was like Jay's beard. It was like it was just omnipresent. So we always knew, and girls loved that fucking dude. And then when he did Playgirl in the 90s, we found out why they loved him.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And that's we'll leave that for the imagination. But But yeah, so Carnivore grew into Typo Negative. I wasn't around for that, but a friend of mine, actually the guy who took over a lot of my duties by the name of Ken, he wound up managing Typo Negative in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. I read articles. I'm a huge Typo fan. I just remember Peter Steele.
Great
He
band.
said he wrote October Rust just to get girls. Like that was literally the whole reason why he and how and why he wrote October Rust. So yeah, I just
their version of Cinnamon Girls is just brilliant,
yes.
man. That's brilliant. As a guy who's a little older than you guys, like anytime you could take a classic rock song and make it your own, that was fucking brilliant, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You brought up your health issues. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, basically, January 14th, 2020, I got rushed into ICU when I was told that I was not going to make it through the night, to the next day. What happened was for about 5.5 years prior, I had an undiagnosed heart condition. I didn't get it checked out. I just thought I was getting older and I was gaining weight, so I gained more weight. What was happening was by the time January of 14th, 2020 came, I had about 55 pounds of toxic fluid in me. Because when your heart isn't working correctly, it builds up fluid, and you get the fluid down by your ankles. So I just thought, hey, my metabolism's going. An incredible story happened about 2, 3 in the morning. I was up for 4 days at this point because of how much pain I was in. I saw somebody come walking in. I assumed they were a doctor, but they weren't. They weren't even a nurse. They were somebody who just coming to, what do you call it, like maintenance to clean the garbage at a can out. I just saw the hospital scrubs, and I said, I'm going to die, right? And he goes, we're not going to let you. At that moment, I said, then I got to fight. And it's not that I wasn't fighting. I just got resigned to dying because I was told to call my loved ones. I was out of ICU 9 days later, and I was out of the hospital 3 weeks later. I'm living with a dire heart condition that's based off of atrial fibrillation. Basically, my heart pumps sometimes as low as 12% of the amount of blood it should in every heartbeat. So that's where I am. I'm disabled. Nobody in the community has heard from me for 4 decades. That was choice. When I left, I just got burned out. And somebody asked me recently to come back because they were trying to get a documentary on the club done, and they wanted a documentary done on the truth. There's a lot of stuff out there about the club that's wrong. I don't mean people's lying. I don't mean people are doing anything. It's not a shot at anybody. But there's a lot of misinformation out there because people are telling stories and they weren't management. They weren't booking bands. They weren't part. Or it's a writer who's 20 years younger than us or 10 years younger than you guys who wasn't there. So I got approached to try to get this documentary done. It wound up not getting done, but I stayed on the group, and it's been fun. A lot of people are just like, can we do stories? And it looks like 2 articles are going to come out about me, my stories, and Lamore that's going to be a little more based in history and honest. And when I mean honest, I don't mean other stories are dishonest. I mean, I'm going to tell the bad as well. I think that's interesting. There was a lot of mistakes made in Lamore and a lot of brilliance. A lot. It was a lot of good things, but it was the 80s. And there was a lot of errors. I'm responsible for some of them. And I think, you know, me telling stories about doing drugs with rock stars is cool. I mean, it's fun. People like hearing that. Me telling stories about how a band got booked, cool. I think being honest about why the club that should be as revered as CBGB's isn't, why clubs in California are considered more legendary than Lamore when they shouldn't be, why the Cat House is considered a legendary club, and people are like, Lamore, what was that? I I want to talk about those reasons as well. So that's why I'm interested in talking about the club because the most interesting thing to me is truth, and I think that's the best thing. But was a more phenomenal venue? Absolutely, man. Nowhere like it.
Absolutely. And so I'm just gonna say it real quick, and we'll put a link up when we put the story up. But you mentioned you're on disability. I know you have a where you live's not cheap to live, and being on disability doesn't cover a lot of that. So we're gonna put a link up, and hopefully the community can come together and help you out a little bit.
I appreciate it. Just so people know, I mean, because I appreciate this. I hate this part of my life. I hate being what's known as an not e-bigger. That sounds like I'm Pete Steele. You know, tie those two stories together. But yeah, I mean, it's rough because I can't work. I'm in and out of the hospital constantly. Even today, I almost saw the cancer because my blood pressure got over 160. So you know, I'm constantly on the verge. If you can't, don't. I mean, it's all good. Everybody my age has their issues. You guys, so how old are you guys? You guys are about 50, right?
52.
Around there,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, it's going downhill, brothers. Enjoy it while you can. Yeah, that's all I can tell you. Being the older guy than three of us, when I turned 50 is when everything started going downhill. So, try to get laid as much as you could right now. Try to do as many drugs and drink, because when you get 60, it's not going to be as fun, man.
I would love if Chuck, we're going to do what Jay said, and maybe you just come tell your stories with us, and we'll just get your word out there. I know, this is not a source of income for Jay or I, but we do it for the love, and we would love for you to come on and just have a regular spot here and tell. I have so many questions that we could go on for hours on.
Yeah.
So that would be amazing if you would.
Listen. Again, and you've been great about this. It's all health permitting. I would absolutely come back. If anybody wants to see some stories, my Facebook is private, but my Lemoore stories aren't, because I like those to be shared. I'm not somebody who wakes up going, I used to be somebody. I've had 3 pretty big lives in my life. If you guys want to research, there's fun stories about Cheap Trick, why I quit the club. Getting Cheap Trick to play is a big story. Stories about Overkill, White Lion, Sabotage, Gene Simmons calling up and threatening me. Because I started a well-known chant called New Kiss Sucks. Because I couldn't stand New Kiss. Eric Carr being afraid to come to the club because he wound up fucking a girl that I was dating, and he heard about my temper, and not just about me, but just all the fucking fun, wild shit that happened in Lemoore. You want to do this semi-regularly? I'm down for it, man. Let's go.
Would love
it. Talking about it.
I think that would be amazing. There's so much, and I want everybody to hear this because this is right in our wheelhouse. So, we talk about 90s stuff. We talk about the stuff that came right before that is the stuff that made the stuff in the 90s, which is, really how and where we came up. We were a little bit younger, but also like it was what made our musical taste. Like somebody sending me the cassette of that second Overkill record is what helped me get into helped me get into thrash metal. Like I didn't know there was a guy named Gabe who was a year older than me in my earth science class. And next thing you know, I have a Talus cassette and I have an Overkill cassette. And I'm like, what are these two things and what's happening here?
I love Taking Over. I actually was with Bobby Gustafson when he went to audition for Overkill.
Wow. That's awesome.
And hold on. It all ties together. Guess who else is involved in that story? Shane. We can save that, or I can give you a Reader's Digest now.
No, save it, because I think we also might have to do a Shane and Chuck show. If that might take a little negotiation, but maybe at some point.
I'm going to say this publicly, so make sure that Shane, you're doing a show with us. He knows who's in charge.
Love it. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Jay.
I saw the other day on the Lemoore Story stuff, you posting that you reconnected with John Connolly from A Nuclear Assault, which is one of my favorite bands when I was growing up.
Awesome. I love, Nuclear Assault, one of my favorite bands. They were one of the bands I got behind because they just had that blue-collar working class work ethic. And that's me, and I love them. And they had such a sense of humor about them, man. So you saw the story about the buttfuck? Did you see the story?
I saw the story. I didn't read all the way through the story.
All right, hold on. There's no way I know it's a great tease, but I am not leaving with John Connolly buttfuck me.
No, please. Yes, we need more details.
There's no way because I'm not coming back. If that's it. All right, Nuclear Assault famously had a song called "Buttfuck," right? And Danny, it was the only Nuclear Assault song that I can remember Danny Lucas sang. So one day they're playing the club, they're headlining, and my mic goes out in the DJ booth. The sound man was also the stage manager, so he couldn't get my mic working in time. So I go, let John and Danny know my mic ain't working because they always wait to see what I say about them on stage because they knew I was really good on the mic. So they were like, tell Chuck, don't worry about it. So they come up and they do 2 or 3 songs. And then John goes, listen, man, you probably wonder why you didn't hear Chuck's voice. Blah, 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 blah. You know, we go up and down the East Coast, man. We're playing, we're touring, we're in clubs. Nobody runs a club like Chuck. Let's hear it for Chuck. So the club starts chanting Chuck, Chuck, Chuck. And I'm like, all right, something bad's going to happen. They just don't do things like this. And then the place goes, Chuck, 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 Chuck. And Dan Loco grabs the mic and he goes, the song's for Chuck. It's called Buttfuck. Yeah. I was like, you're the Kings, man. And the best was at the end of the song they go, and he has no way to retaliate. You know, and but yeah.
Such a criminally underrated band, Nuclear Assault.
Absolutely.
Just amazing.
I brought them to a major label when they were on Combat. The major label loved them, but not everything works out. But yeah, they were definitely one of my favorite bands.
Absolutely.
I saw you had Techio on, right, Alan?
Yeah, we had Alan on. And we're gonna have
Hades, Overkill, and Nuclear Assault were my 3 favorite local bands in that genre, along with Meat Streak, the band Meat Streak, the all-girl band. I was a big supporter of them. But yeah, when I checked out your website, I saw Techio was on. I used to book them all the time. They were like my go-to band. I loved Hades.
Alan and I go back a long ways. Grew up in Paramus, so I went to the same high school as Dan Lorenzo.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of in that Hades and Mucky Pup scene as that was going on.
Jimmy Schumann was one of my best friends for years. He was actually a roommate of mine, their bass player. Yeah. All right, so we got a bunch of shit we're saving for the next time?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Absolutely.
So much awesome stuff. This has been amazing, Chuck. Like the stuff that you're talking about. I also going to ask you, as a Long Island kid, how and what happened with the very ill-fated.
How we used to make fun of Long Island kids in Brooklyn. Is that what you're going to ask me?
Good, as you absolutely should. But what happened to Lemoore East, Far East? Again, another story that we'll talk about.
This I'm actually going to tell the story on Facebook because I had to delete it because there were some things in there that could have got me in severe trouble. I don't mean legally. Go with what you think with that. Let's just say the word vowels. Lemoore East was co-owned by people who owned the building, and I don't know if all the owners of Lemoore, but at least 2 of them, the 2 most known ones, the Parentes. They opened up Lemoore East. The partnership wasn't really a great partnership, even though the venue was. I was working there at the end. Lemoore guys decided they were pulling out of Lemoore East. And they said, you're coming with us and you're going to Brooklyn. Because when we get into my history, they were after me for about a year. The side I put down to the DJ before, his name's Alex. He's a good friend of mine. He DJs to this day. He DJs festivals. He's like the most known heavy metal DJ. But it's his story to tell what was happening. But they were looking for something different. So George goes, don't tell anybody, but next Saturday, you're taking your crates, putting them in my car, and we're going to Brooklyn. Lemoore East had the right to use the name Lemoore still because, this is going to blow your mind, the owners of Lemoore never trademarked the name.
No. Yeah.
Never. So Lemoore, and we had never had nothing to do, not we, I guess I can say we, never had nothing to do with Lemoore Far East. It was just people using the Lemoore name. They created a monster with Queens because that was our rival club for years. And what basically happened was the guys in Lemoore East were so pissed Lemoore left. And why and who was right or wrong, I wasn't privy to that. That's above my minimal pay grade. I got the guys in Lemoore East contacted a mutual friend of mine, and they said, start contacting agencies and say we'll pay double whatever Lemoore's offering for bands. Because they owned the building and they were a bigger venue, they could. So if a band was getting paid, I remember the 80s, 8,500, they were 15. So a lot of bands took it. The bands that didn't were bands like Slayer, the bands like Anthrax, who wanted to, Iron Maiden, Cheap Trick. I was so, because Cheap Trick's my favorite band, so sure that Lamore East was going to get Cheap Trick over me that I went to talk to Rick about it. I put in legwork about it. That could be one of the stories. So Lamore East became Lamore's competition because Lamore built the monster. And Lamore Far East, they were just like, hey, if anybody could use the name Lamore, why not? And you look at those T-shirts, the gentleman I just mentioned, Alex Kane, the DJ, he bought the Lamore trademark about 10 years ago from somebody who never went to Lamore. The guy just realized it was open and bought it. It was just one of the crazy, crazy things about the club that nobody saw that it was going to be as legendary as it was. It just kind of happened. And that's a story we should talk about. We should maybe just do a Lamore story instead of rock star stories about the history of the club and stuff. I think you guys usually do half hour, 45-minute, right, podcast?
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that in the next one. Love that.
So we'll do one with Shane. We'll do one. Oh God, I'm in the podcast business. We'll do one with Shane. We'll do about the pre-Law and Order days. We'll do one just about Lamore, and then we'll do one where we finish up stories. And hopefully, I'm still alive after that, and we can talk about the fourth one.
Love it.
Cool.
Chuck, this has been amazing. Jay, if you want to wrap us up, this has been just great.
Yeah. I mean,
again, Rich pivots to Jay, who does all the work.
The booker is the guy. The booker man has to open and close the show, right, Jay?
Oh, so this is like the deal you got. If Rich books the guest, Rich is in charge. If Jay books the guest, Jay's in charge.
I had to book Jay on my show first before I had a show with Jay. So I brought Holy Roller on the other podcast show. That's where I do all the legwork. So.
Oh, okay. So he's like your side bitch.
I am.
You got a real podcast that's your wife, and Jay's your big hairy Goomba, right? Is that what this is?
Funny part about that is his partner on the other podcast, Turbo, had no idea and found out when we posted the first episode.
So he says.
His side bitch.
So he says. I don't believe a word that guy tells you. He'll hear this and he'll agree. But I anyway. I'm going to wrap this up. Chuck, thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome. I can't wait for everyone to hear this. I can't wait to do more shows with you. Our best to you. We're going to do everything we can to help also. So thank you so much for being with us.
Rich, pleasure. Jay, pleasure. And I hope you guys work out that threesome with his other partner.
We'll work it out. We'll try.
Just don't send me any pictures, right?
Thanks, Chuck.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. Speaking of the late 90s.
Exactly.
We good, guys?
We good. Thank you, Chuck.
Later, guys. Pleasure.
Thanks.
Bye.